Ladies and gentlemen, it's our privilege to have Professor Tarun Das as our chief guest today. Professor Tarun Kumar Das is currently the Registrar and Professor of Mathematics at University of Delhi. He received his PhD and MTech from University of Allahabad. He has teaching and research experience of more than 25 years. He has published more than 35 research papers in international, national refereed journals of repute. His major research assignments include research professorship in 2011 and research fellowship during 2007 for collaborative research work at the Chungam National University, South Korea. Research fellowship at the University of Athens, Greece during 2002. Research associateship at the Institute of Mathematical Sciences, Chennai during 1997. Research award for the National Board for Higher Mathematics 1987. And research scholarship at School of Mathematics, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Mumbai during 1987. Very recently, Professor Das has been elected as the sectional president of Mathematical Section of Indian Science Congress Association. He is also a treasurer of Indian Society for History of Mathematics. I now invite Professor Das to kindly address the gathering.
Thank you, Dr. Gill. Honored guest on the dais, distinguished speakers and participants in the audience, and my dear students, a very good morning to all of you. Dr. Gill approached me some time back to be part of this event, and initially I was hesitant, primarily looking at the topic of this conference. I thought I'll be misfit into it, but then she really pushed me, and so I am here. I was wondering, I looked at the brochure of the conference, and as a principal of this college recently, he just explained some of the major thrust areas where this so-called conference is focused on, covers more or less the basic issues, the fundamental issues. But I jotted down a few things I'd like to share with them, those issues with all of you. See, we are into the age of globalization and also digitization. We talk of climate change, we talk of global warming. If you seriously look into the issues, there is a talk about food crisis, quality food for everyone, basic issues. Many of these issues, and there are demographic issues changing. There's a borderless world now, we can say, in some sense. The technology the communication technology has advanced, and it has become so precise. Many times I ask my students, like when I speak to undergraduate students, that what is it which ensures that when you shoot out an SMS right up here and you want it to be delivered to your friend sitting in New York in a particular office or in a particular classroom or wherever, it hits that mobile. The precision level of this communication technology. So this is making the whole world in some sense borderless. In this era, each nation, of course, has to be very concerned about its wealth. And if we assume a premises that we are not going to have major casualties in the sense of, like, say, some nuclear war or some natural calamities of that highest magnitude, then basically In my mind, when you talk of wealth for a nation, there are two types of things comes to my mind. One is of course the tangible assets. The other one can talk about the intangible assets. When you talk about tangible assets, something on which you can put a value, you can touch, you can feel, you can assert, and of course the market sets the price for it, market sets the tone for it. But typically, if one looks at some kind of balance sheet of any reputed institution or an organization, one would find nowadays there is a sizable investment on something called intellectual property. Intellectual property is a kind of intangible asset. Some simple examples which comes to my mind is, for example, the culture, our culture. I would call it as an intangible asset. Hardly there has been a real effort to protect, to see that our culture is protected and it is grown in a very, very well defined manner. The history, the historical aspects, the monuments, the temples belonging to all religion. We need to think about these kind of assets. And once we want to talk about these assets, we want to ensure that what is it which is going to contribute in the growth of these tangible assets. And to my mind, the most central thing is the knowledge. It's the knowledge which is very important. And we as a nation, all the stakeholders have to ensure that we invest in knowledge in a very methodical manner. The investment in knowledge, for example, starts, beginning with the education of the children. So, the children, they are actually trained in a very specific way, in a very specific manner, taking into account of all kind of things which I just tried to explain. So, it is very important, and which in some sense, Dr. Singh just now said about that it's an education sector. You can say that it's an education sector. A critical mass coming out of the secondary education, has to go to higher education. And is a higher education, we need to be very well defined. We need to focus very well, so that things becomes in a clearer perspective from our side. Nowadays, if I want to talk about Indian higher education system, in my terms, it is facing an unprecedented transformation, which is already happening, and it must be happening in another decade, next decade. The transformation is being driven by economic and demographic change. And for example, if you talk about, say, 2020, India will be one of the world's, say, third largest economy as per the data available, with a correspondingly rapid growth in size of its middle class. Currently, about 50% of the Indian population is about 25 years of age, and by 2020 will certainly outpass China. And in terms of territory age population, we're definitely going to outpass China. The significant progress over the last 10 years in higher education can be lauded, and we can vouch for it. We have done enough. You can count on Nobel Prize winners. Many of the Indian origin people are winning now Nobel Prizes important prizes across the world. But there are a few challenges according to me. The global is bridging supply-demand gap. There is a supply-demand gap, and I think there is a global challenge which, as a country, we need to meet that. India has a low rate of enrollment in higher education at only 18%. And if you compare it to China, it is about 26%. BRICS countries I'm talking about. And if you compare with, say, Brazil, it is about 36%. There is an enormous demand for higher education. By 2020, the Indian government aims to achieve about 30% of gross enrollment, which will mean providing 40 million university places, an increase of 40 million in 6 years. Professor Kapai is here. He is a member of one of the most important higher education regulatory body in our country. So we need to address this issue. This is tremendous. This is going to take a lot from us. Next issue, according to me, is qualitative aspect of the education and learning process. I think there is a chronic shortage of quality faculty, and we really need to work very hard to update our curriculum. This is very important. And the research component, the innovation component is so important, and it will be delivered only if we are addressing the curriculum aspect in a very, very proactive manner with the contribution of everybody. There is also, I think, a constraint on research capacity and innovation. It's about only 1% of the people who are actually graduating who get into the higher education which is research based. So I think we really need to address that, because unless people are motivated, good students are motivated for the research component, the innovation component will remain, I think, less addressed. So we really need to address that issue. And of course, there is an uneven growth and access to opportunity. Well, there is a lot of digitization of many aspects of the education is being carried now. So it is going to bridge that. But what I am concerned about is that it is at a very fast pace. The pace is very fast. So we need to really match the aspirations of the younger generation. According to me, some of the areas wherein one needs to look upon is there is an urgent need for systematic change in affiliated colleges to improve the quality of teaching and learning. This is very important. Private business they are also eagerly, and to the best of my knowledge, it is about 59% of the higher education system existing presently in our country are governed by the private business people. So we really need to focus and collaborate with them, help them to come upon to a reasonable height from where so many younger generation of our country who are going to those institutions, they also get a quality education. So it's a very important feature where we need to focus a lot. Next thing is, in about, say, in next decade, India should experience enormous growth, as I said. One of the other factor which is affecting educational change in our country, which affects and is currently also affecting, which is of course debatable, is the political aspect, political scenario of our country. So while framing various education policies in the past, and we also are waiting for the new education policy, the educationists really need to contribute in that to actually shape our education policy, future education policy, addressing some of these major concerns a lot. So I think the various sectors which are actually broadly described in the conference will get benefited vastly if we are able to help this so-called education sector in the best possible way. I'm sure many of these ideas will be discussed at length during this aspect, during this conference proceedings. I also concerned about the lack of inquiry-based, learning and early researcher skills in limited capacity of Indian institutions to engage in vital research and innovation activity. So everywhere we are talking of innovation, but we need to really address this in a more important manner. So I think there is an expanding scope and opportunity for the higher education sector to engage, and there is definitely a keenness for more diverse enhancement. Indian institutions are definitely looking for, participations from other countries. There is already a SARC-based institution, university in our city. So there are already students coming from other countries and trying to take advantage of this. But it would be very nice if some of our universities and institutions grows to the level wherein we also imagine and think of setting up of their, sister institutions in other countries. Right? Some of the IITs, some of the central universities, they go on and open their campuses in other universities, including advanced countries. We can take up this challenge, addressing the cost aspect of the education and addressing the, the basic fundamental issues of higher education. These are some areas I think if we focus, we'll do very good in terms of higher education. And once we do higher education, we will definitely be able to create the kind of assets which I was trying to say at the outset. And once we create that wealth, I think this nation will grow far from this place. Wishing this conference the very best, and I'm sure all the younger participations from various students which I see here will get benefited out of it. Thank you for this opportunity.